heat. McGlynn is in. Let the fun begin. This is the Commissioner Evaluation Podcast with your host, John McGlynn.
Was that Herms?
He got them guests on the Rolodex, stopping by to talk about some Dynasty Superflex. Everybody, yo, commish is in. It's time to sit down to listen to John McGlynn. Yo, who we trading, who we fading, who we getting off the squad. Knowledge never overrated, playing for number one. And yo, McGlynn is in. It's time to let the fun begin. It's the Commissioner Evaluation Podcast with John McGlynn.
Yo, thanks for joining us tonight. A condensed show. Blackhawks are on tonight. Connor Bernard made his main show, his first show, his introduction to the NHL versus Sidney Crosby, so it should be a good game. But welcome to the Commissioner Evaluation Show. I'm John McGlynn. You can find me on X at John McGlynn75. We're going to talk some commissioner questions, some Week 4 injuries, some Week 5 injuries, some NFL news and rumors, some Week 6 waiver wire advice, and we'll review some trades that went down in Mighty McGlynn Home League and some other stuff around the league. So, JT, what is new and exciting since last week's show?
Hey, man, good to be here. Million injuries. My flag football team, third, fourth graders, got our first victory of the year. Season opening victory. We gave up a touchdown on the very first play of the game. I thought we were in trouble, but we came back and pulled out a 20-14 win. So the Purple Panthers got our first victory. So I like to see that to start out the year. And now it's bye week time. The Raiders are the Steelers, on a bye, which totally screws me because I have a million Steelers players. So I'm literally just hunting the waiver wire, trying to make sure I've got enough guys to actually fill my rosters this week. So that's what I've been doing.
That's what it's all about. Yeah, I went to see my son at Wisconsin Whitewater this weekend. Me and the wife spent a couple days taking the young kids out, and they tried to show us up a little bit, show mom and dad what it's like to be in college, and we put them all to bed. It was a good experience. They're not used to professionals coming up there, so. But it was $9 all you could drink from.
They didn't know what they were messing with
in the morning. Yeah, it was kind of a shit show, but it was good times. We all walked home, got pizza on the way back, got up the next afternoon, went out for breakfast, went with lather, rinse, repeat, come home. We left to go home Sunday morning, and the kids were pretty glad we were leaving. We'll put it that way. So it was a good time, but it was a good time. We had to come to an end. So we go to La Crosse, or we go to St. Ambrose this weekend to visit my other daughter because she plays Iowa. So we're going to go see that. But that's it. It's the only thing new going on with me. So commissioner questions. Sorry about every show. As soon as it starts, I get a frog in my throat. I'm not sure how that happens, but it is what it is. So first commissioner question. There's a couple. We'll just do one today this week. So I had a situation in one of my home leagues where I make my schedules. I do all of I have a division play in week 1, and then week 2, 3, and 4 are division games, and week 12, 13, and 14 are division games also. It's been like that for, in the league that we're talking about now for 6 weeks now, or 6 years now. And somewhere in week 2, in week 9, I messed something up. So it was, or week 2, I messed something up where I accidentally flipped some people. So I had a win, and another guy had a loss, and it ended up where it was my fault the schedule was messed up. It should have been a division game. I had to go back and the person who it affected, or who was supposed to be playing a division game, brought it up to me and said, "Hey, just so you know, I'm playing this guy twice. I should be playing you 5 times instead of just 4." So I'm like, "Oh, okay." So I put on a message board. I said, "Hey, this is what happened," and then the person verified it. I went back and I changed it, and I tagged everybody and the league that I changed the schedule to correct the problem that was done. So I was completely 100% out in the open about what's going on. But that's the right way the schedule should have been, to play my division opponents 5 times and everybody else in the entire league 1 time. And now it's back to normal. Did I do the right thing? Because it was called shady, and it was called a couple other names by one particular person in the league. Nobody else said anything about it. One particular person kind of gave me the business about changing the schedule, but it was the right thing to do to make the schedule correct, not just to go on and change things later on in the year. Did it sound like I did the right thing?
Yeah, absolutely. That's you got to do that. If the schedule's set up that way, you've already made it abundantly clear. That's how the schedule's supposed to be. That's how you have to run with it. And for them being upset that like, okay, I'm upset, like I had a win, but now I have a loss. But that's also not what who you were supposed to be playing. I had the same situation in one of my home leagues. I think it was last year or the year before, where we had the same thing where we have two divisions. You play everybody in your division twice, and then you play everybody on the other division one time. And there was 1 week because I switched divisions every year. Guys, we always switch it from first, third, fifth, seventh, ninth, get put in a division together. And then second, fourth, sixth, eighth, 10th get put in a division together just to kind of mix it up back and forth. So it's not the same 5 good teams in the division every year and 5 terrible teams in the same division every year. So we always switch it up. And I have to sometimes go back and adjust the schedule a little bit when that happens. And I had the same thing where it happened. I just went and told everybody, I was like, hey, you were not supposed to be playing that guy. You were supposed to be playing this guy because he's in your division. This guy was supposed to be playing this guy. And so I went back and I changed it all. And I just told everybody, I was like, hey, I'm sorry that you thought you won or you thought you lost or whatever. But I need to do what was supposed to be technically the real schedule that somehow got messed up. And people, some people get mad, but you're doing a lot of work as a commissioner, changing stuff around, making sure it's right, making sure all these technical details are correct. I mean, as long as you're out in the open being like, hey, that's the way it's supposed to be, it'd be different if you all of a sudden just like made a scheduling quirk in the middle of the year. Like you said what the schedule's supposed to be, just because it didn't line up exactly on the schedule. That to me, I don't think there's any way you should be complaining about that. I'd be complaining more about it if you didn't fix it, because that's the way it's supposed to be. To me, that's where you can get more of a complaint, being like, well, we already played it, we have to leave it the way it is. And I'd be like, well, that screws up the season schedule than if you don't play divisions. Now, me and you also play in a lot more leagues with divisions than a lot of other people do. So I can understand if you're a guy who doesn't usually play in a division league, you're like, what's the big difference? I played a guy head to head, I won. Why does it matter? Well, if you're in a division league where you're playing X amount of division games, it does make a difference. And if you didn't fix it, it would throw it off by the end of the season when you didn't have everybody with the same division record. And then you have tiebreakers that are, dependent on division and head to head. That screws that stuff up in the long run.
Yeah, I'm 100% in agreement where I'm glad I caught it now. I'm glad somebody brought it up to me. I'm glad I was able to be fixed. But it was almost like I was being accused of like cheating a little bit or like kind of like, not doing it correctly. But I'm the commissioner. I kind of said like, hey, I'm the commissioner. I'll do things my way. I don't need your help. That this is the way it is. I'm not going to change it just because you don't like it that way. It's the right thing to do for the masses, not just one person. So it is what it is.
I think that's what you got to do as commissioner. I mean, that's part of the job of being a commish. Holding that, doing the best thing for the league, doing what's right for the league, if it makes people mad or not, you have to do what's best for the league.
Yes. Yeah, right. Exactly. So that's we'll just stick to one. We're on a time crunch today because a handful of things. So we're just going to stick to that one commissioner evaluation thing. JT, you want to go through some of the injuries and waiver wire stuff real fast before we hit our news and notes?
Yeah, a couple big injury notes this week. Devin Shane for Miami, running back, who's looked phenomenal to start the year. The rookie, he is injured, most likely going on IR. Hasn't been designated that yet, but they're saying he's going to miss at least a couple weeks with a knee injury. Obviously, everyone who had Justin Jefferson, who was like probably the main cog in your team, he got placed on IR today with a hamstring injury. It sounds like something similar to what Cooper Kupp had to start the year for LA. James Conner for Arizona, also knee injury. He went on IR today, so he's out 4 weeks. Couple other injuries. Those were the big ones that came out today that everybody's like, oh man, all those guys going on IR, so be aware of that. One big trade came in today. Van Jefferson from the Rams went to the Atlanta Falcons. So Mac Hollins is the number 2 there. The Falcons never throw the football, so that's a problem. But I do like that move for Van Jefferson going to the Falcons. I think, him being in Atlanta is a nice piece to add to them. Hopefully they can start throwing the ball a little bit more. And then kind of a random with the Anthony Richardson also going to the IR for the Colts. He wasn't officially put on IR yet, but it's likely that he's going to be put on IR. They've already said he's out 100% for this week. Gardner Minshew starting. They signed ex-Vikings and Browns quarterback Kellen Mond to the practice squad. So added another quarterback just in case with Anthony Richardson out at least a couple weeks.
Yeah, Kellen Mond was kind of a big name for a little bit. People were kind of going nuts over him back in the day, but he didn't really pan out too much, so it is what it is. All right, so we're going to do like a condensed version. We'll do a news and views for each team. We'll go through all 32 teams here. I got the NFC, JT, you got the AFC. I think you like being in the AFC anyway, so it works out a little bit better. So what we'll do is I'll start out with the Bears. The Bears, Khalil Herbert is a high ankle sprain is what they're saying it's a high ankle sprain. I don't think the Bears officially came out with high ankle sprain, but it seems what it's like. Probably going to be a few weeks. Roshan's in concussion protocol, but he's got their game was Thursday, so they have 10 days to figure that out. If Roshan comes back from concussion protocol, which I think he will, he's definitely the ad. Devonta Foreman would be a good waiver wire target. We've seen Foreman produce before. He's a really good running back. I just think Roshan's like a tier better than him, so maybe even 2 tiers better than Devonta Foreman. Roshan can pretty much do everything. Bears also brought in a pretty good back in Darrington Evans from the Dolphins practice squad, so he's a good ad. The Bears. I don't know. Their running back stable is phenomenal. So across the board, the Bears are finally looking decent. I'm hoping the running back injuries don't put a stick in the spokes of their production. This movement. Did you watch the Bears game the other day, JT? What did you think about that whole performance?
Yeah, obviously not having Deontay Foreman dressed for that game almost got him in the end. Luckily, they got up enough points, didn't matter. But, had to turn to a fullback who doesn't get many carries after Roshan went out and Herbert. I'm just happy that Herbert injury is sounding like it's not as bad as it looked. It looked really bad in the game. He turned over, rolled over, went the complete opposite way. So hopefully it is just a couple week injury. He tried to go back in the game and play, and you saw he tried to plant, and his knee was like buckle on him. So hopefully it's nothing going to be too long. Yeah, hopefully Roshan, again, having that extra time. We've said it all year. Most of the time this year, a concussion is a week out at least, minimum. It has been for most of the year. Most guys are not coming back the next week. But with Roshan being a Thursday game, hopefully he does get back. It'd be nice if he comes back without Khalil Herbert to see what he gets as the number one. And then if you're looking for help in a bye week where you're really desperate for running backs, I like Deontay Foreman as a possible pickup and kind of see what he could do there for the Bears. But the offense is finally moving. I had some buddies that put some absolutely crazy bets on the Bears last Thursday and hit some monsters as they took the Bears winning negative points. They took Justin Fields over 275. I had a crazy parlay where I hit everything but a Terry McLaurin catch in one and a Terry McLaurin catch in touchdown in another one, or I would have raked last Thursday. I hit I think it was 13 out of 14 of my picks on the parlays. Or wait, it was 13 out of 15. But I missed one, just in each. It was brutal, man. I was so close, but I did have some buddies hit some monster ones. Obviously, DJ Moore, I took him over yards at the beginning of the year. He's almost there already. We're 5 weeks in. He's almost at 500-600 yards. His over number was 800 to start the season. So hopefully he just stays healthy. So we got to hope for. Cross the fingers. But it stays healthy, and there finally looks like Justin Fields, DJ Moore got that connection everybody's been talking about, getting ready to roll.
Yeah, I hope this continues. I just don't think it's as sustainable as as 4 touchdowns by Justin Fields every week is not going to happen. So. I'm going to knock on wood. Sure. I'm going to wish for it, but I don't think it's going to happen. But when I first saw the predictions from a lot of sites about what DJ Moore was going to be this season, I'm like, man, I gotta get rid of this guy. And the first couple weeks of the season, I was kind of like, I love DJ Moore, but maybe it's time to get rid of him. I'm like, maybe it's time to make the move. And I'm glad I kind of held steady and stuck with the process. So that's what you got to do sometimes in Dynasty. So if I would have sold low, I would have been so pissed giving up those 64-point games last week and shit. But he was on my bench in one league that I won. I won the league where DJ Moore was on my bench, and I lost the league where DJ Moore was in my lineup. And I don't know. And I have a better team in the league where I have DJ Moore in the lineup. And the guy I played against scored almost 300 points. So it's kind of like, this is bullshit, man. But whatever.
Yeah.
All right, let's jump to the Bengals.
I had Fields sitting in one league, and I luckily won. I had AR playing, and he got hurt, but I won in that league. So Bengals, we left them for dead. All of a sudden, Joe Burrow hits Jamar Chase all over the place. Jamar Chase said last week, "I'm always effing open, always, always, always." Well, he was the other night, just absolutely domination. T. Higgins is out, and Joe Burrow just said, "I'm throwing to Jamar Chase pretty much every play this game," and it worked out for the Bengals. So I know a lot of people were talking about they sat Joe Burrow last week. But I can understand you getting down on Burrow with the injury. Hasn't looked great, but as we always learn in fantasy football, play your studs. Play your studs. Even if they had bad weeks, you got to stick with them. That's why they're your studs. That's why they're the main guys. I thought about playing Howell over Fields in a couple leagues, and I said, nah, I played Howell in a bunch of leagues, but I played Fields in a lot too. Like, you just got to play your studs, but solid performance. Chase and Burrow finally stepping up for fantasy owners.
Chase 15 for 19 receptions, 192 yards, 3 touchdowns. And if you get points for receiving first downs, he had 11 first down receptions. So that was a huge game. So, how about the Bills? Talk to me about the Bills.
Bills, inconsistent offense. Sometimes this team looks great on offense. Sometimes they look terrible. They got the ball to Diggs, but they just weren't clicking all day in London. Maybe they can get it back together. I mean, they looked fantastic a couple of weeks ago against the Dolphins, but as we've learned, this is the NFL. Week to week, things change. Teams look great one week. They look terrible the next week. I'm not out on the Bills. I think the Bills are still going to be good. I think it was a bad game. That London game is always a toughie. They just couldn't really get it together. I'm still in on Josh Allen. The running game has got me confused. I had Damon Harris everywhere, thinking he was going to start getting carries. Hasn't. All of a sudden, he got a decent amount of carries the other day. First game they've used him really hardly at all since they brought in Latavius Murray, and now I'm confused because I just dropped him in like 2 or 3 leagues where I needed bench space. I had to get somebody that could play, and I dropped him, and all of a sudden then they use him. So the running back, I don't know what's going on with the running backs there for the Bills. I still like Josh Allen. Obviously, you're playing him and Diggs everywhere you got him, but the rest of the lineup, I mean, you just never know what you're getting from me. And the rest of those guys, obviously, Gabe Davis gave you a big game, which means he's not going to give you any good games for the next 2 to 3 weeks before he has another monster.
Yeah, Jacksonville only scored 25 points in this game, and they only gave – I don't understand why Buffalo wouldn't want to control the clock. They only got – it was 5 carries for James Cook, and he got -4 yards, 3 carries for Damian Harris for 13 yards, and then 2 carries for Latavius Murray for 6 yards. So I don't know if it was the running backs just not producing or whatever the deal may be, but this was, like you said, having Damian Harris as the early down bruiser to keep Josh Allen from having to run the ball, keep the clock moving, play with their good defense. There was a lot of injuries that Buffalo had throughout the game. So, I mean, they lost a couple really good personnel. But I'm not going to – Josh Allen still threw for 359 yards and 2 touchdowns. And he carried – he had 14 yards. He led the team in rushing with 4 carries, 14 yards, and a touchdown. So when your quarterback's still doing everything known to man, it just can't go through receiving game all the time. Josh Allen can't win these games. So I don't get it, man.
Yeah, they played at a really slow pace in that game, too. They didn't really start getting it together until, it was like their backs were against the wall. Then they started doing stuff. It was really weird. It was a really strange game. They were in like a haze the whole first half, and they didn't start putting together until late. And right when you thought they were going to make a run is when they gave up the big Etienne touchdown that kind of sealed the deal.
Do you think the London game the time zone, kind of messed with these guys were like creatures of habit? Do you think that these time zones these games really mess with these guys?
I'm really surprised that they haven't thought about doing these London games at night in England so that they're in the afternoon in the United States as opposed to being at 8 a.m.
Right.
in the U.S. I don't know. It seems like if I was over there in another country, playing a night game would be a lot easier for me as opposed to playing a morning game where, like, I mean, you got to think if you're a West Coast team, I mean, your Bills on the East Coast, I mean, you're getting up really early compared to what you would normally. Like, I mean, that's just throwing your whole system off. I don't know. I've never played a game doing it like that, but I can't imagine that it's very good for you. It's gotta definitely throw you off.
Yeah. All right, let's move to the Broncos. Tell me about the Broncos.
The Broncos are a shit show, John. That is what the Broncos are. What a disaster. This team, I mean, I can't believe you look at the names on the back of their jerseys, you'd be like, why is this team not good? I don't this defense was supposed to be a legit top end defense, and they are awful. They can't stop anybody. And they've got some studs on that defense. They can't get it together. You thought Sean Payton, because the defense looked so good last year, all they had to do was get a little better on offense and fix everything up. Nope, the defense is 10 times worse. The offense is better, but not good enough to overcome the defense. This Broncos team, I don't want any part of it. They're driving me crazy. I don't have a lot of players. I got a little bit of Judy, a little bit of Cam, a little bit of rough.
Yeah, I mean, he went 6 for 7. Judy went 6 for 7, 50 yards. So he only the accuracies here. Sutton 1 for 3 for 13 yards. I mean, I don't know why Cortland Sutton's only getting one target. Or I mean, 3 targets but only 1 reception. And then, I mean, Brandon Johnson 1 for 1 for 9 yards. It just seems like things weren't working. Adam Trautman got 5 receptions. That's like second most on the team. I don't know where this whole thing went wrong. I mean, they only had 15 carries total on the offense, so I'm really not seeing what's going wrong here. As far as stopping the Jets should have been a pretty easy task, and lose 31-21 to a pretty bad Jets team. I don't know where the wheels fall off the wagon on this team either.
Yeah, I mean, 31-21, I can understand if they would have said, like, you would have looked at it and they're like, oh, man, we lost like 13-10 in a defensive battle because the Jets defense is so good. I can be like, okay, you couldn't get it going against the Jet defense. Their defense is legit. But you lost 31-21. You gave it 31 points to the Jets offense. What are you doing? Yeah. This Broncos team is – I'm out on the Broncos. I am not betting them or taking them in anything the rest of the year. And I'm sitting all their players unless I have to play them. They're a mess.
Yeah. More AFC teams, the Browns.
Oh, I can't wait to see what happens with Browns fans. They're coming off the bye week. They feel a bit better. They're getting Watson back. And then they're going to get crushed this week by the 49ers. The 49ers are going to eat this team alive. I just can't wait to see what the Browns. Well, we'll see if Watson even plays the whole game. He might get beat down, and he might just say, "Hey, my shoulder hurts. I got to go out again." This Browns team, I think they're in big trouble this week. I wouldn't play anybody they have. I would not play a single Browns player unless you're playing IDP and you're playing Myles Garrett and the defensive players, because I think this is going to be a tough one for the Browns.
I guess the only sneaky excuse me, the only sneaky play I could think of would be someone like either Amari Cooper or David Njoku would be the only person I could think of that would be someone I can possibly sneak in my lineup to try to, I would say probably Njoku because Amari Cooper is going to have the best defensive back on him. So I'm going to go with it. Njoku might be the only middle of the field open play. But again, what the hell? What's going on with Watson? He's still complaining about his shoulder this weekend. I don't know what his story is, and he got cleared 2 weeks ago. So I don't know if it's just something.
I don't know what's going on there. Well, and then you think the Niners are just rolling people. You get a bunch of garbage time fantasy points. That's not even happening. I mean, look at the Cowboys. They didn't get any points from anybody, and they were getting rolled the whole game. So it's like usually you think, at least if this team's going to get smashed, I'm going to get a bunch, an extra 100 yards passing at the end of the game for my quarterback. I'm going to get some catches from my wide receivers. No, they're just getting shut down completely.
Yeah. Buccaneers moving on to the NFC games. Mike Evans has a hammy going into the bye week. We'll have to monitor to see what information we have. Look for either Sean Tucker or Keyshawn Vaughn to both start getting more reps on early downs. As the Bucs, their early game, Rashad White just kind of looked bad. The more and more I think about what's going on now, I'm kind of happy that I moved Rashad White in all of my leagues. I kind of saw something coming. You were kind of a Sean Tucker fan coming out of college too, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, I'm a Sean Tucker guy.
So I moved. I got Sean Tucker in a handful of leagues as kind of a waiver wire when nobody picked him up or nobody wanted him. So I got Sean Tucker right now. I guess that's the move right now. If I understand that Rashad White's probably still going to get all the PPR work. He's probably going to get all the receiving work out of the backfield, most of it anyway. But I could see a world where Sean Tucker starts really inching in on his offense, and everybody's like, "No, Rashad White's getting all the volume. He's getting all the volume." I'm not sure that how long it's going to last if he's doing if he's having these terrible games like he had last week, because that's not sustainable on an offense. They have to use the running game. I mean, having Nick Chubb was definitely what do you call it? It was awesome to have Nick Chubb on the team, but now you don't have Chubb, and nobody's going to be Nick Chubb anymore. You got to figure out another way to run this offense. So, Cardinals. James Conner has got a knee sprain. He went on IR. You said today, right? So, Keontae Ingram was a preferred stash here, but he's dealing with a neck injury of his own that held him out of practice, out of the last couple of weeks. So, Amari DiMercato will be the next man up if Ingram can't go. He's an undrafted, anything guy. Barely heard of him before. Nobody's heard him before this year, but he did okay. He got all the carries. Tony Jones would be a desperation play just as his backup. They signed him off the practice squad. Josh Dobbs' bad game could be a buying opportunity. His rushing stats alone make him pretty much relevant on his team. And it kind of sucks because the Cardinals are they're like a little train that could kind of feel good story this year in the NFL. So I'm crazy. I couldn't stand the Cardinals forever, and I kind of have a soft spot in my heart for them right now because they're doing so well. So I got Amari DiMercato. I don't plan on starting him. Look for him to be like a running back, even if he is the number one guy. Probably like a really low running back 2, maybe a somewhat high mid RB3, probably a little bit more like it. So look for him to be like in the mid 30s, and that's with all the work. We don't know what to. Someone who's not drafted, not invited to any training camps, not invited to combine, not invited to nothing. We don't know anything about. Nobody's got any juice, any kind of word on him. So tread with caution. It's a desperation play, but he could surprise you too. So that's someone you got to pick him up. If he's a starting running back in the NFL and getting all the work, you had to pick him up. But that's about it. So let's move to the Chargers, JT.
Yeah, I think the bye week came at a perfect time for the Chargers. Herbert got banged around, hurt his hand before that last game. Eckler has been out. Now they're saying he said today, 99% chance he's playing in the game. He says he's ready to go. Derwin James coming back. Also Bosa, both of them said they're ready to go. So I think this might have been the perfect time. Usually you hate getting those really early bye weeks because you want a little bit deeper in the season when you really need rest. But I actually think this early bye week helped out the Chargers. I like the Chargers. I still think this team can really get it going. I think this defense is better than people think they are with all the injuries. And I just love Herbert, Keenan Allen this year. I think that is just that's the hookup. And if Eckler can come back, I think it helps this team. So I think the bye week ended up being the right time for them.
Yeah, bye week, and they get to wait all the way until late Monday Night Football to actually play their first game. So to have a finger injury, any kind of injuries, that's a long time for these. That's 2 full weeks and then some to sit back and just kind of chill and let all your injuries sit in the hot tub, go to the trainer, get your jogging in, kind of heal back up. Some people don't like these early buys. They like later in the season before the playoffs, but it couldn't have happened better for some of these teams. So, yeah, exactly. I'm 100% in agreement on that one. What about the Chiefs?
Yeah, the Chiefs. Here's the thing is, are we sure the Chiefs are that good? I don't know, man. They're 4-1. They're defending champs. We got to let them there. But they've been susceptible lately. I mean, they got a close win over the Jazz, close win over the Jets, close win over the Vikings. And we're not sure that the Jets and Vikings. So, to me, this Chiefs team is somebody I'm watching out for because, you got Mahomes, you got Kelsey. they can get some wins. But man, I'm a little worried about anybody outside those two, especially for fantasy purposes, is you can't figure out none of the wideouts are doing anything. I like Rashee Rice probably the best out of anyone, but there's just no one getting a lot of volume.
Yeah. Kadarius Toney had more targets than Rashee Rice actually this week, but which is kind of weird because Toney was left for dead pretty much, before. But he caught 5 of the 6 targets, 26 yards, and you got a carry also on a reverse. So maybe they're trusting Kadarius Toney again. Maybe they're getting back in the offense. I do like Rice better than Sky Moore. I did start to buy Toney when everybody was left for dead. I sold him in one place for Trey Lance somewhere, but in a super flex league, you got to do the quarterbacks are worth your weight in gold. So you got to do what you got to do. But Sky Moore only 2 for 2 for 11 yards. MVS, 1 for 2 for 12 yards. It's you can't really depend on anybody right now. But Rashee Rice and Kadarius Toney are probably the only 2 guys I would even trust putting in a starting lineup right now. So Colts, JT, go ahead.
Are you ready for Minshew Mania? Because it's officially here, baby. Minshew Mania headed back home to Jacksonville. You couldn't have wrote the script any better. The ex-Jags quarterback, is he going to finally be the one to break the 8-game losing streak for the Colts at Jacksonville? It has been horror stories for them there. They cannot win in Jacksonville no matter what. They played horrible there for years. Minshew's going to be the guy that breaks the streak. Going against his old team. I'm loving it. The Colts had him in week 1. They were up 2 scores. They should have won that game. They had no running game whatsoever. Deion Jackson, 15 carries, 16 yards. They cut him 2 weeks later. Now they got Moss and JT rolling. I'm liking the Colts in this game. Get ready. The Minshew Mania is here to stay.
For all those people that put JT in your lineup last week, 6 carries for 18 yards, 1 reception for 16 yards, and then you saw Zach Moss get 23 carries. That's just Zach Moss has been doing very well. He's carrying the workload. This is going to be a thing where they're going to kind of ease JT back in. You don't want to throw the guy at his first. He's been sitting around for the entire training camp. He's been sitting around at home the first 4 games. You cannot you just paid a guy, $36 million guaranteed or whatever it was, some big astronomical number. You can't risk an injury with someone as good as JT or an asset you threw sunk so much of your, trust in. So expect this to start being a little bit more balanced. I wouldn't say it's going to be a JT game next week, a John Taylor game next week, or 2 weeks from now. These guys work pretty well together. And Zach Moss, if he's playing lights out, let him play lights out. Give JT, he's got his money now. He ain't going nowhere. Take your time until something happens to Moss or until JT starts playing better or is up to speed. But I'm super happy with the Colts, their situation, beating a division rival, and then going to Jacksonville next week. This is going to be I'm super happy that you're super happy, and I think all Colts fans right now are really looking forward to this team. Too bad the AR kind of had this situation happen to him, but at the same time, Minshew Mania, he's more than enough to get it done. I think it works out better for fantasy when Minshew's in the pocket anyways for the rest of the team. So that's
a big win. Colts can't get over. They're in first place right now, 3-2, tied first place. If they win this game and split the season series with the Jags, that's huge. So it's a monster game.
Huge. All right, so Cowboys. No idea why they were so bad last week. Dak only threw 24 passes in this romp. CeeDee Lamb had almost as many points in week 2 than he's had the rest of the season combined. I just can't wrap my head around how they have scored 134 points so far, and they just kind of seem to suck. I know they're not bad, but all their games have been so weird. I don't know.
It blows my mind. It's like they came out the first 2 games of the season. Everybody's like, oh my gosh, are the Cowboys the best team in the league? They looked amazing. And now they've looked terrible 2 weeks time. The NFL, it is just crazy week to week how good some of these teams look and then how terrible they look within a week or 2 after looking amazing. You just never can count on anything in the NFL. You never know what everybody's going to do because everyone was singing this team's praises a couple weeks ago, and now everybody's like, oh, do we got to get rid of Dak? Who are you going to replace him? He's horrible. It's like no one was saying this 3 weeks ago. It's just the way it is. Things flip. You just got to be prepared in the NFL to deal with all the craziness.
Yeah, I mean, playing the 49ers is not an easy task, and that game got out of hand so fast. I get it, but it's I just see Lamb as a buy low right now. I think he's had a couple bad weeks, still pretty good target share, but I don't think anybody's going to get rid of him. But I would take every chance I got to try and throw like Ramondre Stevenson and some other stuff, towards him. Do whatever you can to try and get CeeDee Lamb before he's going to break out one of these days. All this stuff averages out. He'll be fine, but we'll see what's up. JT, take the Dolphins for a minute. I gotta take your time in about 2 minutes on the Dolphins. I'll be right back.
Okay, yep. Dolphins, top offense in the league. They've been absolutely tearing it up. Tua is everything we were asking for him to be. Tyreek Hill has been amazing. Jalen Waddle's been banged up a little bit, but he's coming back. Biggest thing is, can they keep any of these running backs healthy? A chain now possibly going to IR. Mostert has been great, but then he kind of got a little banged up. They didn't get as many carries because a chain had looked so good. Now we're seeing maybe Jeff Wilson is going to come back here shortly. Hopefully he gets in there. So that's the big question mark for me is, can any of these Dolphins running backs stay healthy? Because if they're healthy, you got to play them. You can't sit any of these guys with how good this offense has been. I'm going to jump ahead as we were just talking about with the Colts, the Jags, T-Law and the Jags. Is this team for real or not? Are they imposters? It's tough to tell. Back-to-back quality wins against the Falcons and Bills in London, though they kind of are the London team. They played over there so long. They're used to playing over there. They stayed for 2 weeks, got the big win. Now when they come back across the pond, is this Jags team legit? Big game this week against the Colts. If they can beat the Colts, get back into first place, and get some 2-0 against the Colts this year, it's pretty huge. The Colts get a win, and maybe it swings things for the Jags. So that's an interesting thing. Let's move on to the Jets. The Jets, they got hammered by the Cowboys 30-10 in week 2, but they've looked pretty competent the last couple of weeks. Zach Wilson has looked pretty solid. The offenses look decent, and this team's going to be in games just because the defense is legit. I mean, this team is going to keep them around in a lot of performances. If they can get anything out of the offense and Breece Hall can run like he's been running, I think teams are going to have to be a little bit more worried about the Jets than you think. John, I went over Jets and Jags while you were gone. Just a heads up, and we're back to you on it is
on the Eagles. So
Eagles. Yep, we're back on to the Eagles.
Swift has taken over his backfield. 17 carries, 6 receptions in week 5. So did the coaching staff replace their Kenny Gainwell shirts with Swift shirts? That's kind of one of my big question here. Why'd they fall in love with Swift? But go buy Kenny Gainwell what you can. He's someone who I think is also someone who can get, if God forbid one of these guys go down, I think I'm pretty, or something happens to Swift, I think Gainwell is in line for a pretty big line. 1 for 5 for 6 yards in week 5 for Devonta Smith is very puzzling. I think, is AJ Brown that much better than Smith, or is AJ Brown just getting that wide open? I don't understand how that.
I just think it's the Eagles' offense. The Eagles' offense, they go week to week. It's like Devontae Smith has a monster week. A.J. Brown doesn't do anything. Then A.J. Brown has a monster week. Smith doesn't do anything. Then Goddard, who is left for dead, comes back, and he has a monster game. It's just the Eagles' offense. I just think, that's the biggest problem with them is you love to play those guys because it's a great offense, but you're just going to get some big misses certain weeks, but you're going to have some monster games. I mean, I had people tell me, like, you can't even play Goddard anymore. Well, what does he do? He goes out and has a monster game last week. Right. So it's just one of those things. It's going to be part of it. Devontae killed me in a couple spots, but then he saved me a couple weeks ago. So it's just going to be that way with the Eagles, I think, and people are just going to have to get used to it. They're going to have to take the highs with the lows.
Yeah. And then the Falcons, the tight ends combined for 19 targets. The wide receivers had 14 targets. Running backs had 5. It was a great combination. The offense just kind of seemed to starting to get a rhythm here. I'm looking forward to if this keeps up. Big win versus the Texans, but the running backs had 31 carries for 86 yards. We talked about this before. 2.7 yards per carry on average for these guys. Something's got to give with this with the offensive line, because it's not the running backs. We know that Bijan is a pretty damn good running back, but there was just nothing to be found here. I think they're trying to stop the running game and make Ritter throw the ball, and he's actually did okay. If that's what they're going to do is try and stop Bijan and let Ritter throw the ball, then you might be unfolding Ritter, a side of Ritter you didn't want to see, because he's targeting everybody. He doesn't have to throw long. He's got plenty of weapons on his team to hit running backs out of the backfield, wide receivers and short and long targets, and tight ends. Obviously, the Kyle Pitts and the rest of the players on this team who are stepping up right now. I don't see how Kyle Pitts, John Smith, and Pruitt are not. They're enough to beat you. This team does this because you stop the running game does not mean that the Falcons are defenseless. They've got a lot of weapons to utilize here, and they're utilizing them. And if this is what I think, when they figure out the running game, the Falcons could be pretty. They're winning games. So all this Arthur Smith, blah blah blah. If he keeps winning, that's all that matters. So that's all we're looking for, is just someone to keep winning games. That's what it's about in the NFL. They're 3-2. They're above 500 already, and that's to go through the season like this. You got to be pretty happy if you're a Falcons fan. Let's see, and then 49ers. Brock Purdy has 9 touchdowns and 0 interceptions so far. He's on pace for 4,300 yards, 31 touchdowns, and 0 picks. If they can avoid the injury bug, this team will be special. Is there a better all-around team in the league, JT, than the 49ers?
I don't think so, honestly. I said before the season started, I thought they were going to win the Super Bowl last year when Purdy got hurt in the playoffs. And I said going into this year, if they can get good quarterback play, even the solid quarterback play, I think this team's the best team in the league. Defensive-wise, offensive, all the players they have, the running game, everything they can do. Once they added CMC, I was like, this is the best team in the league to me. They just needed the QB to play. I thought it was going to be Darnold. You thought it was going to be Darnold. And Brock Purdy is just a beast. He is playing phenomenal. He was a guy I was not super high on all over. I thought, he played pretty well last year. I was like, maybe he just got lucky. Well, I was wrong. Brock Purdy looks phenomenal. If he keeps playing this way, I don't know who's going to beat this 49ers team.
Right. So let's switch to the next game on the slate here, which is the Giants. Daniel Jones got a neck issue. He's had neck issues before in the past. We know that that's been a problem. He said it hurt like the last injury, but we're not really sure what's going to happen here. Waiting on some more tests. Daniel Jones, he did so good one game. I don't know why he's not hitting Waller. I don't understand. Hopefully this is a different injury and he won't miss much time, but Tyrod Taylor will be the backup, probably a waiver priority if something happens to Daniel Jones. I don't see anything where he's going on IR or anything. They didn't really come out and say anything serious yet. But this whole line is just bad. I'm literally afraid when Saquon comes back, if he comes back this week, I'm literally afraid that he's going to just walk into a shit show and because if they have Tyrod Taylor as backup quarterback, they don't really have any good receivers because he's a tight end who's underproducing right now, because I think it's more of a hamstring issue why Waller's not really getting open or getting the separation. He hasn't really dropped too many passes. He's been okay, but Daniel Jones, getting sacked 10 times in a game is just ridiculous. And that's what, 19 in 2 weeks, 16 or something like that in 2 weeks. That's just, you can't have that. Their offensive line is just brutal, so I just can't see I'd be like, we talked about this before. Would you trade Saquon right now for a mid-first and a mid-second, to get rid of him? I think I would, because I'm not sure what the future holds for Saquon here. I know he's on a 1-year deal.
Probably would.
One more year of, he's coming back this week, but what if he gets a partial load? He's not carrying. What if he's not really completely injured? What if he reaggravates his injury and he's kind of, hampered for the rest of the season? I don't really trust the Saquon Barkley, the train right now. And I guess I would. I think you have to move on. That's pretty sad because for what he came in the NFL as advertised and what he's been doing because of the injuries is a whole different story. So we did the Jets already. Lions. Craig Reynolds is the only healthy backup on a team right now behind behind David Montgomery. So until Gibbs with his hammy and Simon Knight's shoulder get healthy, you have to kind of keep Reynolds on your, pick him up for a week or two until everybody starts coming back. The Jameson Williams post-suspension debut was not exciting to say the least. Not really sure how much more of a boom-bust option he will be in your lineup. I was so high on Jameson Williams coming out because, he was flashy. His ability was so good, his speed. And then there's just so many red flags around him right now. I kind of moved on. I got rid of him in a couple leagues, and I wish I wouldn't have traded so much to get him on some teams just to give him away for half price. But I don't want to get trapped if Jameis Williams is a complete bust in the NFL, which I think that's a possibility more and more by day. It's becoming more and more of a possibility. So, but if I'm the Lions, I just keep pelting Sam Laporta with the ball to keep this offense moving. And the Lions should just keep biting kneecaps. They're 4-1. Their record's showing it that they're moving out, that they're doing the right stuff. They're playing good defense. They're playing a good, solid all-around offense. So you can't ask for much more than that. Packers, Jordan Love did not look very good. He just couldn't place the ball. He was 16 for 30 for 182 yards and 3 picks. Garbage time picks, trying to move the ball. It is what it is. But not having Aaron Jones really hurts this team. A.J. Dillon had 20 carries for 78 yards and a touchdown. Justin Watson had a 77-yard a play, 2 more receptions for only 13 yards. So he's just a boomer bust player in my eyes. I think everybody went nuts over him. You have to have Justin Watson. If he's going to have one big play for 60 or 70 yards and then do nothing else the rest of the game, I don't see him having more than 1 or 2 big plays a game. That is for that's 8 or 9 or 10 points or something like that, maybe 12 points. But I think that's a ceiling, to be honest with you. I don't really every once in a while he's going to get an 18 or a 24-point game, but look for like an 8-point or 10-point game on a regular basis from him. Do you think he's a boomer bust player, or what? I mean, do you trust Justin Watson?
I don't have him in a lot of spots. He's just going to be a big play guy. That's just kind of who he is and what's going on in his lineup. They're hoping he gets a 1 long touchdown. I just don't think he's the guy that's ever going to be like 8, 9, 10 catches a game. He's going to get you 3 or 4 if you're lucky, and you're hoping he gets 1 big one and gets a score. I just think that's kind of the player he is.
Would you rather have Watson, Jameson Williams, or a 24 mid-first?
I'd rather have 24 mid-first, but I'd take Watson over Williams.
Okay. Yeah, I get it. I was kind of blinded by the Jameson Williams. I think the name, first of all, the Jameson and names might have made me a little more happy to have him on my team. But yeah, same thing. I do think I think Watson's probably gonna have a better consistency, which is kind of even hard to say that with either one of these guys. But I'll take the 24 first and just kind of move on from both of them. Panthers. Yep. Bryce Young went 24 for 41, 250 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. It was kind of embarrassing they put Andy Dalton in there to run the wedge for Young. If you draft a quarterback that small and you have to have somebody come in to run these plays, so you have to risk injury, maybe you made a wrong decision. And then is Chuba Hubbard taking his backfield from Miles Sanders?
Yeah, I'm not sure 100% what's going on. If Sanders is nicked up or they just like Chuba better, but Chuba's getting a lot of workload. I have quite a bit of Chuba on a few of my teams. So he's a guy I'm going to, especially these bye weeks coming up, he's a guy I'm going to keep an eye on as possibly playing in as a flex play or as my RB2 in some leagues where I'm like desperate to get someone just in the lineup.
I'm buying low on Miles Sanders right now. People are pissed. I think he's got a groin situation going on right now, and I think he can, he can recover from this, but it might take a couple weeks to kind of work it out. So, I mean, Thielen, Chark, and Mingo are doing fine. Do they really need an alpha on this team?
I don't know if it really will make that much of a difference, especially mid-season. I think, maybe if they go and get somebody in the offseason and Bryce Young has time to work with him, maybe. I just don't know if you go out and you grab a guy right now, it makes that big of a difference. I just don't think this team is a playoff team. I don't think they're that good. So to go out and try to go get a guy mid-season thinking that that's the difference maker, I don't think it is. I think you play with Thielen, let him have a big year this year, and then you look at adding in the draft or somewhere next year to the wide receiver core.
Right. Yeah, exactly. All right, you got the Patriots and the Raiders back to back.
Patriots, 2 worse losses in Bill Belichick's career. 35 points to the Cowboys and 34 to the Saints. I played the Patriots defense in quite a few spots in leagues that still play defenses and redrafters. Oh, that was a big mistake. They scored me negative points in a few leagues, 0 in a couple, and it was bad. You used to least think you could count on the Patriots defense, even if the offense was going to screw you in fantasy. You can count on the defense. Well, now you can't count on anything. This team is a mess. Ramador Stevenson's getting like no carries. He looks bad. Mac Jones, who actually looked really good against the Eagles in like week 1, has completely regressed and looked awful. They've got 3 points in 2 weeks. At this point, the only guy I'm playing is Stevenson in a flex, or I'm playing Hunter Henry because I got to in a league. Just if I don't have anybody else, I got to play a tight end. But at this point, I'm sitting all my Patriots players. I have 1 million shares of Juju, and I haven't even looked at him in 3 weeks. I haven't even thought about playing him. I mean, I'm looking at Braxton Berrios as the new chick on the block. I'm playing him over Juju. It's that bad. I'm not playing any Patriots players unless I have to.
The Patriots defense were the same as having like Travis Kelce in the tight end position for, years. You never had to hit the waiver wire except for 1 week a season. You just kept the Patriots in your lineup every week, and they got you 15, 20, 25, 30 points. Mm-hmm. Now they're a liability. You don't even need them anymore,
It's a mess. Yeah, it's a mess. Number 1 scoring defense in the league last year, and they're just it's a disaster.
Raiders.
Jimmy G coming back. I like the Raiders. I should have hit an awesome same game parlay that I barely missed on tackles, but Quan Walker killed me. Should have hit it on Monday, but Jacoby Myers, go buy him right now. If you can buy him on a contender, he's a great buy. I mean, he has a great connection right now with Jimmy G. His only bad game is the one that Aiden O'Connell started. So if you can go get Myers, that's my Raiders take. Go get Jacoby Myers.
I was trying to get Jacoby Myers for the last 2 weeks before all this stuff, and people are like, no, I like him. If you're a Jacoby Myers fan, he's already on your team, that kind of thing. And he has to have a lot of bad weeks for you to. But I would be careful with this because I also think that with the return of or with the shoulder injury for Devontae Adams, that maybe Jacoby had a little bit more involvement in this game. So I'd be careful. I'd temper my expectations, but at the same time, he is producing, so you got to go with that. I'll give you that much. Rams, Cooper, Puka, and Atwell, and Higbee might be the best wide receiver tight end corporate in all of football. What do you think about that?
They're solid. I mean, Stafford's looking like Stafford old when they won the Super Bowl. Cooper Kupp came right back, looked phenomenal. Puka right next to him, and then you got Higbee and Atwell. I mean, this is actually a team that I thought was going to be terrible this year. They've actually got some firepower. I'm actually kind of liking this Rams team. They look pretty decent right now. Yeah, I mean, they're a fun fantasy team to watch. I still can't believe their defense is holding it together with some of the players they have because that's not a talented defense, but they're keeping them in it. In the offense, hey, at least they're exciting. I went out and made a couple moves to get Matt Stafford in some 12 and 14 team Superflex leagues where I needed QB help, and I'm not regretting it at all.
Schedule's been brutal, and they're still 2-3. They're playing solid. I mean, I'm super happy that this is going on for the Rams. Because I had them, I was kind of like they're just going to throw in the towel, be left for dead. Them and the Cardinals this year have been pleasant surprise across the league. Did the Rams make a mistake by trading away Cam Akers? Because this offensive line is just kind of, I mean, the running game is kind of now. I think that everybody was kind of on a Keontae Ingram or Kyron Williams train for a little bit, but then he did not look good. 13 carries for 53 yards. I'm not really sure what they're expecting from Kyron Williams in the future, but it better be better than this. I mean, if the team is going to throw the ball with Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua and a good tight end, and you still can't stop the run, I don't know what that's a Kyron Williams problem in my head. Do you think they should trade for a guy like Ramondre Stevenson if the Patriots are going to throw in a towel or Saquon or something?
I don't. I just think the running game is going to struggle no matter who you have. Honestly, I just think their O line is not that great. They can pass block a little bit, but I don't think they can run block. I don't think it's Kyron. I mean, you can make a trade. I just don't know if it's going to help that much, honestly. And if you're the Rams, can you really afford to trade? I mean, you've gotten rid of so many draft picks over the years. I don't think you do it.
Yeah, right. Well, Ravens.
Lamar Jackson playing out of his mind. If you actually watch the games, he has looked phenomenal. He's gotten screwed because his freaking wide receivers, like always, have been terrible. Ton of drops this last week. Absolutely buried him. Everybody said, "Oh, Aguilar, Odell Beckham, Bateman's going to come back. Like he's got new offensive coordinator. He's going to crush." Well, I don't even think it's Lamar's fault. I mean, he has looked great. The rest of these guys look terrible. They're always banged up. They're dropping the ball everywhere. I actually, and I can't believe saying this as a Steelers fan, I actually feel bad for Lamar. I feel bad with how little he's getting help on that offense. When Justice Hill looks like your third best player behind Lamar and Mark Andrews, that's a problem. But they're going to be in the mix all year. Defenses look pretty solid, and Lamar's balling. He's eventually those guys are going to make plays.
It's another team that needs to make a move for running back because I know they're not getting their running back. They're not getting J.K. Dobbins back next year. He might be done, as far as all the injuries are concerned. They can't really, plan on him for the long haul. They need to make a move now. They're a candidate for Ramondre Stevenson, who obviously the Patriots don't like. They're not using him correctly. I don't know what the problem is, but they need to make a move to get a better running back in there. Saints, Chris Olave has a toe situation, but he played last week, so he should be fine. Kamara led his team with 22 carries for only 80 yards, though. But Derek Carr, 18, 26, 183, and 2 interceptions, or 2 touchdowns, no picks. Jimmy Grant had a target in this game, which I thought was kind of funny. He's only in there because of Juwan Johnson's calf injury, but super happy to see the Islander Foster Moreau catch touchdown on his only target for to come back from his cancer situation and make an impact in the NFL, or just be back on the field anyway. So that's his feel-good story. Seahawks coming off a 10-sack day of Daniel Jones game and then a bye. Ken Walker is galloping for 64, 285, and 5 touchdowns with a few long runs, bringing that 4.2 yards per carry average up. Charbonnet is averaging 4.9 yards per carry. This means that the Seahawks, I put it on Twitter the other day, I kind of was joking about this. If they just handed the ball off to any one of these running backs 3 plays in a row, they'd get first downs, they'd drive down the field, they'd score touchdowns, and every time they touch the ball, just running the ball, never throwing the ball once. And they would just, they'd have 90% of the clock. They'd get first down, touchdown, no field goals needed. This running game is just kind of, it's working. It's working really well. So for them to, as much as I don't like Pete Carroll in this offense, he uses things correctly. I have to give him his props, but the Seahawks are looking pretty good with the way they're running the offense. So tell me about your Steelers, JT.
First place in the AFC North. Unbelievable. 3-2 somehow pulled that game out against the Ravens. No way they should have won that game. Huge play, Kenny Pickett to Pickens for the touchdown at the end. The defense absolutely stepped it up and saved them once again, as I have a feeling that's going to be most of the year. The defense is either going to save them or they're going to play terrible like they did against Houston, and they're going to get worse. The crazy thing about this team is, though, going into the bye week this week, chance to get right, they come out going to LA against the Rams, which I think is going to be a much more difficult game than I thought it would be at the beginning of the year. Then they got 3 straight home games: Jacksonville, Tennessee, Green Bay. There's a serious chance the Steelers team is going to be 6-3, 10 weeks into the season, and going down the stretch with week 11 getting Cleveland. They're in the mix. It's been ugly. It's been terrible football. It's been awful for fantasy purposes. But, man, the Steelers team, the defense is tough. They're going to keep them in games. I think the Steelers are going to hang around. They're going to blow some games they shouldn't. They should win. They're going to win some games they shouldn't. But it's going to be crazy nonetheless.
And they get Deontay Johnson back next week.
That's the hope he gets back, and Pickens is opening up, and then hopefully get Muth back in a week or 2 after that. And then hopefully this team gets something rolling.
Yeah, Texans.
Yeah, Texans. I mean, everybody thought this team was going to be terrible. I think they're way ahead of the curve of where they thought they would be. CJ Stroud, my QB1 entering this class, and I think I was right. He looks like QB1. He looks legit. I love CJ Stroud. It's tough for me to say as a Colts fan, but man, this AFC South, which, people have ripped on with terrible quarterback play forever, it might be the new spot. You got T-Law, Anthony Richardson, CJ Stroud, and now we can just have the Tennessee Titans coming in last with Will Levis, and we're golden. I love it, but I think Houston is way ahead of the rebuild than where they maybe thought they would be.
Is he going to break the Ohio State curse?
I think he is. I think CJ Stroud's legit. I thought he was from the beginning. I'm in on CJ Stroud.
1,461 yards, 7 touchdowns, and no interceptions to start his rookie campaign. For him and Brock Purdy to be doing this kind of stuff now in the NFL, I mean, Brock Purdy's on an elite team with a great defense and a good running game, so he doesn't have to do much. But Stroud he's the guy, like I say all the time, like some guys are the horse that pulls the carriage, and some guys need the carriage to push the horse. He is the horse pulling the carriage on his team. He's showing leadership skills. He's getting the ball around. I'm super happy for the CJ Stroud the way he's starting off this. Nobody saw this coming, but I'm really happy about it. And I think everybody was kind of like, why would Carolina take the quarter? Why would they pass on CJ Stroud? I don't get it, but I think now it's kind of showing that we're all right that CJ Stroud was a better quarterback in this NFL draft. Where we at? Titans,
Dr. Heckle, Mr. Hyde. I mean, this team, they look ugly. They look terrible certain weeks, awful, but they're in every game. I just don't know what to expect out of Tennessee the rest of the year. I mean, D-Hop had a resurgent game the other day. Tannehill looked decent. He's had some awful games this year. Tajay Spears, a guy I said at the beginning of the year, I wasn't big in on him. I'd have him almost nowhere. He's looked great. If you don't have him, he's out on waivers somewhere. Go get him. He's a great backup for Derrick Henry. But this team is going to be a frustrating team all year because they're going to win some games. They're going to make everything tough. They're going to be in a lot of ugly games. I just don't think they're that good, but they're playing well enough to at least be in matchups.
Yeah, Henry's still getting his 13 carries. I think Derrick Henry had a toe injury to start this season, and I think that toe injury is still. He looked pretty good for a week, but I think I'm not saying he injured it, or maybe he can't use the same workload. Maybe they don't want to use him anymore. Maybe they're saving him for big games. I can't see a bigger game than playing against a division rival in Indianapolis to try and score. But Henry threw a touchdown or threw a pass that should have been a touchdown. He just kind of overthrew Hopkins by like a foot. Hopkins tried to stay in bounds, but it didn't work. But they're trying to use like different plays. Spears definitely does look good, but I think Henry is still obviously the if you got to plug and play somebody, it's going to be Derrick Henry every week until it's not. So Vikings, Justin Jefferson, hammy, IR. That's bad news for a lot of fantasy managers. This is a nice opportunity to see how your Jordan Addison shares look when he has a chance to lead at a leading role. KJ Osborne would have an increased role as well. I think TJ Hawkinson's probably the mainstay here. They have a few familiar faces and N'Keal Harry that can be called up from practice squad, but this is the last team the Vikings needed after starting the season off 1-4. Talk about a team that really didn't need any big injuries on this team. That to start off against a couple of division rivals, getting punched in the face, losing some close games. It's just the whole thing's falling off the track here, and people are talking about trading Kirk to the Jets or somebody else. I don't know what they're going to do now, but they have to do something because, it's just bad. It's just bad. And the Washington football team, Sam Howell is attempting over 38 passes per game. So he may not look super awesome, may not be a stat sheet warrior. He does pretty damn well. Last week he did pretty good, but great quarterback 2 on your team. Just because of inconsistency, he's a good mid-round quarterback 2. Long-term trade target with that volume in your dynasty leagues. No injuries on his team besides running back Chris Rodriguez. He's a third-string running back anyway. And the Commanders aren't as bad as their record 2-3 might suggest. I'm trying to buy Jahan Dotson right now. He's not going nuts, but he's averaging 6 targets per game. It'll eventually warm up a little bit. So I'm kind of still in on the Commanders on being a pretty good team. So what do you think about the Commanders, JT? Am I wrong for still
Commanders? No, I think the Commanders are way better than the Giants. I'd much rather be playing Commanders players than the Giants players. I like Howell a lot. I think he's showing something. Dotson, I think, is a good buy. He's not off to a great start fantasy-wise, but I like him a ton. I think this team's way better than people are getting credit for. I mean, obviously, they just got smoked by the Bears. Bears played phenomenal. I actually think this is a solid Commanders team. I actually don't think they're bad. I think they're going to be in a lot of games this year. And I love Howell as your QB2 or QB3 and like in the super flex. I played him all over the place last week, and he scored me really solid points. So I'm in on seeing where they're going to go. I think they're way ahead of where the Giants are at this current spot. And I mean, the Cowboys looked way better than a couple weeks ago, and I don't know if that's the case anymore.
Yeah. Real fast trades. That's all 32 teams, news and notes. Real fast trades in some of my leagues, the Mighty McGlynn home leagues. There was somebody traded 2 firsts for Devon Achane and a 3rd round pick. Just a weekly reminder: don't trade for running backs in season unless you're absolutely desperate. This was a desperation move, and it was a mousetrap. The guy put his hand right in the trap and got zapped with it. It's a minimum of 4-week right now IR stint, and who knows if it'll go longer or not, and if they find something else or need further surgeries. And then even when he does come back, there's a lot of – I mean, Mostert and what's the name came off IR today? Jeff Wilson. Everybody liked Jeff Wilson in the offseason. A-Chain came out of nowhere. I'm not going to say he came out of nowhere, but Jeff Wilson was supposed to be like the favorite to carry. So I'm not sure A-Chain's ever going to get that roll back that he kind of was creeping into right now. So talk about 2 first-round picks possibly going down the toilet bowl, man. That might have been it. So any other trades, anything like that you got going on in your leagues that you want to talk about real fast, or are we good?
Nope. I did nothing crazy happening this last week. I'm expecting people to start making some moves here in the next 2 to 3 weeks as bye weeks and more injuries hit and people decide they're going for it or calling it quits for the year and packing in for next year. So I'm expecting a lot more trades over the next couple of weeks.
I'm going out and getting Darren Waller everywhere I can get him. I'm going out and getting Daniel Jones everywhere I can get him at, just because of the fact that these guys are not as bad as they're playing right now. If you need to get somebody, then go get somebody like that, because you've seen what they're capable of doing. When Saquon comes back, the offense is going to be a little bit back on. It's going to be back on track. But a lot of guys showing up in your trade block. This is the season where people are getting impatient. Look at your waiver wires. When people cut the wrong guy, make sure you're there to swoop up and pick them up. And that's about it. If you follow me on Twitter at John McGlynn 75, I do the commissioner evaluation. I'm all over the place, posting stuff on Twitter all the time. JT, where can everybody find you
at JT Orange on the X? The Stew with JT Brew is my show that I do on the Dynasty Pros football channel. So check me out there.
Find us on we're both on the Fantrax YouTube channel. If you guys are not familiar with Fantrax, me and JT, tonight's our first night of our hockey season. I'm trying to get to the Blackhawks game ASAP right now. Watch Connor Bernard's entrance to the NHL. But if you don't have any leagues on Fantrax, look into it. Great customizable. The JT moved his league, which I joined this year, to Fantrax because of the fact they have so many options with your fantasy league. So look into Fantrax for your fantasy, golf, auto. They have everything on there. So take a look at Fantrax if you have a chance. Everybody else, I will talk to you later. Have a good night, everyone.
McGlynn is in. I repeat, McGlynn is in. Let the fun begin. This is the Commissioner Evaluation Podcast with your host, John McGlynn.
Was that Herms?
He got them guests on the Rolodex, stopping by to talk about some Dynasty Superflex. Everybody, commish is in. It's time to sit down to listen to John McGlynn. Yo, who we trading, who we fading, who we getting off the squad. Knowledge never overrated, playing for number one. And McGlynn is in. It's time to let the fun begin. It's the Commissioner Evaluation Podcast with John McGlynn.